Welcome to Hope Stories, where sometimes the people we love the most carry secrets that could shatter our world. Imagine a father willing to risk everything, even his own life, for a chance to save his little girl, while a hidden past waits in the shadows, threatening to tear them apart. This isn't just a story about survival. It's about love colliding with guilt, betrayal wrapped in sacrifice, and the kind of choice that makes us question what we would do if we were standing in his shoes. What if the person you trusted most was hiding a truth that could destroy you? And what if that truth was the very reason you loved them in the first place? Stay with us as we step into a world where hope and heartbreak walk hand in hand, and one family's fight will leave you breathless. The penthouse above Manhattan glittered like a glass fortress, its owner a man whispered about on Wall Street with equal parts awe and fear. Ethan Sterling, the so-called Ice King of high finance, ruled a vast empire from the top floors of Sterling Capital. His suits were always immaculate, his words clipped and rare. Emotion like warmth seemed banished from his world. At charity galas he stood apart, a living statue with steel blue eyes, while his rivals speculated about how a man so cold could rise so high. What they didn't know, and what Ethan never allowed anyone to see, was the shadow he carried, a boy at his father's funeral, swearing he'd never be powerless again, and the lovers he'd left behind on the climb toward supremacy. Power had been his shield. Solitude became his only companion. At night, when the city roared beneath him, Ethan would sit in the dark, the skyline flickering against glass walls, feeling the dull ache in his chest that no cardiologist could diagnose, until one did. The verdict came like a blade. His heart was failing, time measured in months, not years. Yet he told no one. Death, like love, was a weakness he couldn't afford. Instead, he tightened his grip on the empire, firing subordinates with a single nod, watching fear ripple through boardrooms. And still, when the elevator doors slid open one rainy evening to reveal a young woman clutching a child's hand, something shifted. Rosa Alvarez, the new housekeeper from Queens, had a face that carried years of unspoken battles. Beside her, little Isabella, no more than 5, gazed up at the cold man in the tailored suit with eyes wide and unafraid. It started with small intrusions, the sound of giggles echoing down marble halls, a pink crayon rolling under his office door, a child's voice asking if he was lonely. One night, Isabella toddled into his study, found him slumped over his desk, and wiped away the single tear he didn't realize had fallen. 30% is better than 0, she whispered weeks later when Rosa accidentally overheard the doctor's prognosis. Ethan, the man who bought companies like toys, was stunned into silence by a child's math. Something inside the fortress cracked. For the first time in years, he felt terror not for himself, but for the 2 souls who had stumbled into his world. Terror and a flicker of longing. As winter bled into spring, Rosa's secrets began to surface. The bruises she hid, the abusive past she'd fled to keep Isabella safe. Mary Connolly, Rosa's elderly aunt, moved in to help, bringing with her the scent of cinnamon and old hymns, until the sterile penthouse began to feel almost human. Ethan found himself at a stove, awkwardly chopping onions while Isabella laughed, tears streaming for reasons that had nothing to do with pain. In the glass fortress above Manhattan, a strange kind of family was forming, one built not on blood but on choice. And in the quiet hours, Ethan wondered if protecting them might give meaning to whatever time he had left. But secrets have a way of demanding payment. One evening, as a storm tore through the city, a figure from Rosa's past appeared in the lobby, shouting threats, forcing security to intervene. Ethan watched from above, his hand clutching his chest, rage and fear colliding in a man who had once believed he was untouchable. The empire he'd built could not shield them from this. Nor could money buy him more heartbeats. That night, he called his attorney, made plans that would shock the board of Sterling Capital, and wrote a letter he wasn't sure he'd live to deliver. The Ice King was melting, and in the melt, there was both hope and danger. What would you sacrifice if you had only months left to live? Could love from strangers be enough to redeem a lifetime of isolation? And just as Ethan takes his first step toward redemption, an unexpected knock at his penthouse door changes everything. The knock on Ethan's penthouse door came again, louder this time, echoing through the glass and steel like a threat. Isabella froze mid-giggle, clutching her stuffed rabbit, while Rosa's face drained of color. Ethan crossed the room with his usual controlled gait, but inside, his pulse thundered. When he opened the door, a man stood there, soaked from the storm, his smile a cruel curve Ethan had seen before in hostile takeovers, except this was far more personal. Victor Delgado, Rosa's ex-husband, the man she'd fled. His voice oozed venom as he demanded to see his family, ignoring the protective way Rosa pulled Isabella close. Victor's words sliced through the hallway. Accusations of theft, betrayal, threats to take the child where she belongs. For the first time in years, Ethan felt something hotter than fear, rage laced with an unfamiliar, primal need to protect. He could have called security and written a check to make the problem disappear, as he had always done. But watching Rosa tremble, Isabella's small fingers clutching his sleeve, Ethan realized this wasn't a transaction. It was a battle for the only people who had made his life feel alive again. His mind raced. Every instinct told him to bury Victor legally, crush him with lawyers and money. Yet another voice, softer and more dangerous, whispered, "What if Rosa doesn't want a savior in a suit? What if he's just trading one kind of control for another?" The confrontation escalated. Victor spat out Rosa's secrets in the open hallway, about the shelter she once hid in, the debt she owed, the bruises she'd concealed. Each revelation hit Ethan like a blow, not because of judgment, but because he realized how little he'd truly known her pain while drowning in his own. Then Victor turned on him, sneering that Ethan's heart condition made him weak, unfit to protect anyone. That insult, more than any financial scandal, nearly broke him. He lunged, not with fists, but with words sharp enough to draw blood. "You will never hurt them again. If you want to fight, you'll fight me in court, not here." Security arrived, dragging Victor away into the storm, but the damage lingered. Rosa's eyes brimmed with tears, not just from fear, but from the humiliation of her past being laid bare. Ethan reached for her, only to hesitate. What if she saw him the same way she saw Victor, another man claiming ownership? That night, as the city hummed below, he sat alone in his study, wrestling with a torment deeper than death. If he truly loved them, could he accept they might need a future without him? The legal papers transferring his fortune were ready. His heart, however, wasn't prepared for the possibility that love meant letting go. And yet, as dawn broke, Isabella tiptoed in, curling against him with her stuffed rabbit. "You're not weak," she whispered. "You're our family." Those words steadied him like nothing else ever had. But outside the penthouse walls, Victor's threats weren't over. Rosa's past was clawing its way back, and Ethan's failing heart ticked down like a clock attached to a bomb. Do you believe Ethan should fight to stay by their side at any cost, or love them enough to step aside if his time runs out? As Manhattan wakes to a new day, an unexpected letter arrives that will shatter everything Ethan thought he had secured, pulling him into a choice far more dangerous than his failing heart. The envelope was thin, unmarked, and waiting on Ethan's kitchen counter as if it had slipped through the storm itself. Rosa swore she hadn't seen who delivered it. His name was written in sharp, deliberate strokes, the kind that made your stomach tighten before you even broke the seal. Inside, a single page and a photograph, Isabella on the swings at Central Park, taken from a distance. The note beneath it was worse than any hostile takeover threat Ethan had faced. "You can't protect what's already mine. Drop the custody claim or she disappears." No signature, but he didn't need one. Victor's ghost was now a predator lurking just out of sight. For the first time since the diagnosis, Ethan felt something more terrifying than death. The thought of losing Isabella and Rosa while still alive. The moral calculus gnawed at him. Could he expose Victor fully, risk a public trial that would drag Rosa's past across every headline? Or could he make the unthinkable trade, hand over Isabella's custody to guarantee her safety, even if it meant breaking her heart and his? As his lawyers outlined options, none of them clean, Ethan felt the walls of his empire closing in. The clock in his chest kept ticking louder. Each beat reminded him his time was running out. Rosa's plea that evening sliced him open. "I can't lose her, Ethan, but I can't lose you either." Her hands shook as she held the photo. The fear in her eyes mirrored his own. The man who had built skyscrapers with sheer willpower now stood paralyzed in a penthouse that felt like a cage. He thought of his father's funeral, the emptiness of standing alone, and swore Isabella would never feel that. Yet the threat made every move dangerous. Even his security detail admitted that whoever took the photo was careful, skilled, patient. This wasn't just Victor. It felt orchestrated, like someone was exploiting his weakening heart and their newfound love to corner him. That night, Ethan walked into Isabella's room and watched her sleep, her small chest rising and falling in the glow of the city lights. He wondered if love was supposed to feel this sharp, this impossible, like holding a fragile miracle while knowing it could be ripped away at any moment. His mind raced with plans: flee the country, fake his own death, pay off Victor. But each idea carried a different kind of betrayal. As dawn crept over Manhattan, a second envelope arrived. This one carried no threat, just a hospital seal and a cardiologist's letter. The transplant list he'd clung to as a secret hope? He'd been bumped lower. His body was deteriorating faster than they thought. It wasn't just a countdown anymore. It was a collision course. And now he had to decide which battle to fight first: his failing heart or the darkness stalking the only family he had ever chosen. If you were Ethan, would you risk everything to confront Victor and protect your family, or sacrifice your own happiness to keep them safe from the shadows? As the sun rises over Manhattan, a single decision is about to ignite a chain of events that will test love, loyalty, and the very limits of Ethan's heart. Don't miss what happens next. Ethan's resolve hardened like ice beneath a rising tide. The threats had cornered him, but the morning brought something worse than fear: choice. He met Rosa in the kitchen, her eyes rimmed red, the photograph still trembling in her hands. "We can't let him win," she whispered, though her voice betrayed the terror underneath. Ethan's pulse thudded unevenly, each beat reminding him of the letter from the hospital. Time wasn't just running out, it was sprinting. He had hired the best security, but Victor's reach slithered past every wall. Then, in a move that shocked even himself, Ethan decided to go on the offensive. He reached out to a former rival in the investment world, a man he had once crushed mercilessly in a hostile takeover. Nathan Cole owed him nothing but resentment, yet Nathan had resources that didn't operate on the books. When Ethan confessed what was happening, the man's smirk faded. "Victor doesn't just want custody, Ethan. He wants you destroyed before you die. And someone's feeding him information from inside your home." The words detonated like a bomb. A traitor. It explained the precision of the photographs, the timing of the threats. Ethan scanned the faces in his mind: staff he trusted for years, lawyers who swore loyalty, even the doctors who knew his prognosis. The paranoia scraped at his sanity. That night, while Isabella drew him a crayon portrait titled "Our Family," Ethan smiled with tears burning his eyes, knowing someone under his roof might already be dismantling that dream. Rosa sensed the shift. She caught him checking the apartment cameras obsessively, double-locking doors, whispering on burner phones. Her own guilt began to surface. One evening, she confessed through sobs that Victor wasn't just an abusive ex. He was still legally married to her. She'd fled without papers, terrified and undocumented, which meant any court battle could unravel her life completely. The admission rocked Ethan deeper than the hospital letter. The woman who had given him a reason to live carried her own secret chain. His mind tore in two directions: anger that she hadn't told him, and awe at her courage to protect Isabella despite everything. The twist sliced them open, yet somehow pulled them closer. If Victor's claim had legal ground, their fight would be even bloodier. Ethan's failing heart felt like an hourglass inside his ribs, the sand slipping faster. And now, a spy within his own sanctuary, a lover with a hidden past, and an enemy with the law on his side. This was no longer just about survival. It was war. And Ethan had to decide how far his love was willing to go. Do you believe Ethan should confront the traitor in his home, even if it means uncovering more painful truths? Or should he risk trusting those closest to him despite the danger? As night falls over Manhattan, a revelation is about to shatter the fragile peace in Ethan's home and force him into an impossible choice. Stay with us to witness the moment that changes everything. The storm broke inside Ethan long before the thunder rolled across Manhattan. He spent the night pacing the penthouse, his mind spinning with faces and suspicions. Each creak of the floorboards felt like a whisper of betrayal. At dawn, an envelope slid under his door. No knock, no voice, just white paper and a black and white photo of Isabella at the playground, alone. The message beneath read, "She belongs to him. Stop fighting." His heart clenched so violently he thought it might give out right there. Rosa found him shaking, clutching the photo like a lifeline and a curse. For the first time, she begged him to give up, her fear spilling raw. "Ethan, you can't protect us if you're dead," she cried. But surrender wasn't in him. Not anymore. He decided to confront the spy. His plan was simple and cruel: bait the traitor. He leaked false information about moving Rosa and Isabella to a safe house in Boston and waited. Hours later, Nathan Cole called with intel. Victor's men were already staking out that fake address. Someone had taken the bait. That night, Ethan gathered the staff and the few people left he thought he could trust. His voice, usually glacial, cracked with rage and heartbreak as he revealed the trap. When the truth came out, it wasn't a butler or a lawyer or even the building security. It was someone far closer, his personal assistant Claire, the one who scheduled his heart appointments, who ordered Isabella's favorite strawberry milk. She broke down under the weight of her own confession. Victor had promised to pay for her mother's medical bills overseas. She wept as she admitted planting the cameras and passing along their movements. Ethan's fury warred with something deeper: empathy. He knew too well the desperation of watching someone you love slip away. The room spun with betrayal and pity. He could turn her over to the police, or he could let her go, knowing Victor would chew her up and spit her out. The moral cliff he stood on was as dizzying as the diagnosis that haunted him. Claire's betrayal sliced open the last illusion of safety, and with it came another revelation. Victor didn't just want Rosa. He wanted control of Ethan's entire fortune. Through Claire's stolen documents, Victor had found a legal loophole to challenge Ethan's will, to claim guardianship of Isabella if Ethan died. The twist hit harder than the envelope under his door. The clock was ticking, not just on his heart, but on Isabella's future. For the first time, Ethan considered an option he had sworn off: experimental surgery with less than a 10% survival rate. A gamble with death, but also the only way to buy time to lock Victor out forever. The decision loomed, impossible and inevitable, as lightning flashed over the skyline. If you were in Ethan's place, would you risk your life on a desperate surgery or try to outwit Victor while your time runs out? As the storm rages outside, Ethan is about to make a choice that will put everything: love, loyalty, and his own life on the line. Stay with us as the battle reaches a heart-stopping turn. Ethan signed the consent forms with a hand that barely trembled, though inside he felt like glass splintering with each pen stroke. The sterile hospital light made everyone look pale, but none so much as Rosa, clutching Isabella in the hallway as if sheer love could shield them from what was coming. The surgery was scheduled for dawn. The experimental procedure offered a sliver of hope, but the odds were brutal. He spent that night awake, telling Isabella stories about stars and how some light reaches us only after the star is gone. Even when we can't see them anymore, their light keeps traveling, he whispered, brushing her hair back. Remember that, no matter what. When morning came, Victor appeared in the hospital lobby, smug in his tailored suit, confident that either way, Ethan dead or alive, but weak, he would win. Ethan surprised him by offering a deal. If he survived, he'd legally cut Victor out and donate the fortune to a trust managed by Rosa and Nathan. If he died, the same would happen, with ironclad paperwork filed minutes before anesthesia. Victor's smile faltered. For the first time, he realized Ethan's love for his daughter outweighed all fear, even of death. As they wheeled him into the operating room, Ethan caught Rosa's eye. No words were needed. The surgery was a storm. His heart failed twice on the table. In the void between beats, Ethan thought he saw his father waiting, and behind him, the faint sound of Isabella's laughter, like a thread pulling him back. Against all odds, the procedure worked. His heart restarted, fragile but fighting. Days blurred into weeks. Victor, stripped of legal recourse, vanished into the shadows of his own schemes. Claire, freed from his grip, stayed by Rosa's side, working tirelessly to atone. But the twist no one saw coming wasn't Victor's defeat. It was the letter Ethan left in Rosa's care, one he'd written in case the surgery failed. Though he lived, Rosa read it aloud one quiet evening. In it, he confessed that years ago he had been the driver in the accident that killed Victor's sister. He'd been young, reckless, and had buried the truth with money and shame. If you ever wonder why Victor hated me with a rage that burned his soul, the letter said, now you know. Hate me if you must, but know that I've spent every day since trying to build something worth the forgiveness I never deserved. The confession ripped open old wounds, but it also explained everything. Rosa wept, not out of anger, but because of the staggering weight Ethan had carried alone. She chose to forgive him, though Victor never would. Ethan emerged from the ordeal altered, his body weaker, his heart stitched and scarred, but his love fiercer than ever. Isabella's laughter filled the penthouse again, and sometimes Rosa caught Ethan watching the stars from the balcony, eyes glistening, as if he could already see the day when his light would travel on without him. The ending wasn't perfect. It wasn't meant to be. It was messy and human and painfully beautiful, the kind of ending that lingers like an echo long after the music fades. How did this story make you feel, and which part stayed with you the most? Comment 100 if you love this story. Where are you watching from, and will you share it with your friends? Thank you for being here with Hope Stories.